Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour, brought to you by AllAccessMMA.com. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ed Carbajal. Ed, coming off a busy week and busy weekend ahead. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. I mean, I can't say that I'm bothered by it. Maybe a little tired, but it's definitely, you and I talk about it enough on this podcast, but it's definitely, there was a time where we were, itching, rubbing our hands together, digging for some fights to watch, and now we're not sure. Never mind just the UFC, but we had the one making their debut on TNT. Bellator is going full throttle with their Showtime move, which I love. How the two of them are working together already, and then obviously UFC's here every weekend anyway, so we're definitely not left without fights to watch.
So you mentioned the one on TNT card from Wednesday night. It had mixed results. The two fights that the average American fan especially are interested in was obviously Eddie Alvarez with his fight with Yuri Lapicus. That fight ended strangely premature when Eddie Alvarez was kind of beating on his opponent, took his opponent down, and then was disqualified for some punches to the back of the head. I didn't know what your take was on that.
Yeah, no, I mean it's I wonder. And the thing, what's funny is they're doing their media tonight, and I don't think I'm going to be able to dial into I get the Zoom link invite, but, because it's in Singapore and the time and everything, and I still have to, it isn't my full-time job. I still got to get up and then work in the morning. I really can't tap into it. It might be on I think it might be on the BR. Oh, my phone's in the other room. But if you check YouTube, it's either on the one YouTube channel or the Bleacher Report app live YouTube channel that they'll put that press conference on, so you can see some of the stuff that comes of it. But last week when they did it, you could tell that Chatri Sittyong, who's the chairman or the president of one champion. I keep calling him One FC because they're originally One FC when they came out and then changed to championship. But he was on there and he was talking about the differences of what they do versus what's we're used to here on our side of the world. And it was almost like weird sales pitchy, but it's almost like, that's fine, but we kind of have to see it go down to see how it works. And I don't know if it's them. I don't know if they should just keep doing what they've been doing, or the fact that they're trying to adjust so much because they're on TNT. Because, I mean, I don't know if you saw that it was the day of the event that they rearranged the card so that knowing that the East Coast, that's still late for us. I mean, it's not as late for you, but they rearranged the card so you could see Eddie Alvarez, Demetrius Johnson, and then Rod Tang's fight that happened last on the main card. And then we got what we got with the DQ that you're talking about. So they kind of, I mean, they do like pride rules. So folks that aren't familiar with all that were probably confused. But as far as my take, I sympathize with Alvarez because he made a point in his post-fight interview, which was mics weren't working and stuff during that whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty bad. But he makes a really good point when he talks about what these guys do for a living. You are put in there to fight and damage another person. So that, I mean, his focus isn't on doing it as safely as possible. He was in a position where he couldn't see. I mean, he was landing punches. And, body sensitivity, without using your eyes, you can only tell so much what the other guy is doing. So his head was essentially against his opponent's neck. And when he was throwing the first two shots, it was behind the ear. If you watch the replay, it's all over the web so you can see it. But if you watch the replays, it's like one or two before Lapicus turns his head. And then that same area, Alvarez is just hitting the same area. Not his fault the guy turned his head and it became the back of his head. It's messed up that it happened. I think it could have been a warning, but if Lapicus was that hurt that he got to get carried out of there, then I guess that's that's where people are arguing. Why didn't they do that for, Sterling's? Like why didn't Jan get? I mean, Jan got disqualified, so I mean, it's almost the same thing with the Jan Sterling thing. But people are just like, I don't know. It wasn't awarded as a victory, right? Isn't it like a no contest or?
No, it's a loss. He got disqualified. My issue is Alvarez was in the wrong. They were illegal shots by the book. I do not believe that a dude goes through an MMA fight and then gets hit with like the 4 weakest punches of the whole fight, and those punches just to the side back of the head need to be carried on a stretcher. I never heard an update on Lapicus's injuries, so hopefully I'm not just talking out my ass here, but I really don't believe that.
Well, you kind of are.
I believe it's his show though to get paid. I believe it is. He got paid. You get paid more. You get the win. He was getting his ass kicked. He was going to lose. So yeah, straight up. I don't unless I see a medical report saying he had some brainstem injury or something. I don't believe for a second that wasn't an.
Well, it doesn't need to injure the brainstem to be.
You get what I'm saying, though. I mean, do you think that those shots?
Have you ever been hit in the back of the head?
Yeah, I've been hit in the back of the head.
Like hard.
I'm just saying, like.
You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm just saying, like it's. It's
okay.
jarring.
Well, we disagree then. But I don't think. I think it was. I don't believe that it was. I don't know. I think a lot of fighters when they get hit with illegal shots lately become real soft when they know that they can get a win. And I maybe I'm wrong, but the trend seems to be that way a little bit lately. And I'm not saying that they were not injured, and I'm not saying that they should have continued to fight, but I am saying that I do believe that they play it up to get the win. And I believe that's what happened here. The shots were not that hard. Eddie Alvarez, I'll let Eddie Alvarez hit me with those shots. It wasn't even ground and pound. They were clinched up and he hit him and I mean, they were little rabid punches. So maybe he was devastated by it, but I have a hard time believing he should be an MMA fighter if he can't take that level of punishment without being carried on a stretcher. With that said, I don't blame either of the guys. I blame yeah, there you go. I don't believe. I believe the issue is the referee. There was no real warning. The referee actually watched him continue to swing at the back of the neck head, and there was no real warning. It was a quick instant disqualification. I thought it should have been a no contest unless he by making it a disqualification, he's saying Eddie Alvarez was blatantly trying to cheat.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think that was Alvarez's intention. If you watch it, I mean, he's what's this guy? The armchair fighter, 2000. Yeah, all right, whatever, man. But it is what it is. I don't think Alvarez was doing it on purpose, and he obviously felt bad afterwards. I know they're going to announce something this week though, coming up, because he put on his social media today. So maybe, I don't know if this is Chatri's way of making it up to him and trying to still get on board with American fans, but there was definitely a little bit, I don't want to say thirsty on one side, but with the last minute rearranging the card and I mean, I'm pretty sure, like they probably thought Mighty Mouse was going to pull off a win. They probably thought Alvarez was going to pull off, a win or a great performance. And, I mean, the thing I liked about it was the final fight with the Muay Thai Rodtang. Like now you get to see guys, fight fans get to see that the waters of talent out there are deeper than what the UFC keeps saying is out there. And you saw a fight like that between those two guys, and who Rodtang is going to be making to his I know he's going to transition to MMA soon, but I just like that they mixed it up. I mean, I think they need maybe a little more time. I don't know if TNT is the place for it. I don't know if 10 o'clock at night on a Wednesday is going to work for them. I don't know if you saw the ratings numbers. Like AEW was pulling in a little over 8 or close to 900,000, or right around their peak. And then when they switched over to one, I think one drew just under 200,000. And then obviously that number dropped off as the night got later because it's Wednesday night.
But I don't know if those ratings are much worse than like PFL gets. and it's certainly not any worse than Bellator was getting on CBS Sports and stuff. I mean, it's all basically the same.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't have any issues. I didn't mind them moving the fights up because
No,
like
I
it was,
like that.
I mean, like I don't, we don't want to jump past Adrian Marias' devastating win over Demetrius Johnson, and my biggest takeaway from that is that I've talked to other people I have respect on MMA Twitter, and I've lost a lot of respect for MMA fans. They don't know what they're watching. They complain about knees to the face. I'm just confused by what the MMA fan wants. I've never seen a situation where a guy got kneed in the face and
Well,
people bitched and moaned about it so much.
I think it's a case of newer MMA fans, and unfortunately, that's what you're seeing out there most of the time. You know what I mean? Like
but that's what I'm saying though.
Like they should really rewatch. Like I think the best of the case for the knees to the head. If you watch a Smashing Machine documentary, there's a good portion of that covers the rule modification that Pride made when Mark Kerr had that whole situation with Igor Vovchanchyn, and it was a situation where the knees were issued, and they said, you know what, so that it's not an issue, let's fucking bring it back to the old school ways. And then Mighty Mouse is actually all for that.
No, he used them in his other fights.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just bizarre. I've always thought that we lived in a world where MMA fans wanted less rules or, a little bit more wild fights, but obviously not. Like I would tell people to go watch Pride fights. I don't think a lot of these fans should go back and watch Pride fights.
No,
they won't be able to handle it.
They'll probably get offended.
They'll be offended. They'll be like it's just baffling. And they lose. One of their guys loses, and Mighty Mouse. Everybody loved Mighty Mouse, and he gets KO'd.
But he handled it. The whole thing,
he was awesome about it.
Yeah, and the whole thing, that's one thing that One Championship tries to advertise or whatever is like. I mean, they did a whole thing with when they were talking about coming, because they were supposed to come here to New York in the Garden, whether it be the theater arena, who knows, but. They wanted to make their U.S. debut on U.S. soil, and obviously COVID fucked that up. But it's one of the things they wanted to put out there is like they're not selling the trash talk and the Jorge Masvidals and the Sean O'Malley, like all these gimmicks that are out there that happen to be also pretty decent fighters. They're trying to do the whole honor and martial arts thing, and I think Mighty Mouse definitely. Well, he's always been about that, but the way he handled the loss is definitely about that. And the respect that they showed each other at the end, the respect Rodtang and his opponent showed each other at the end. That's the stuff that one wants to sell, but we're not gonna, It's like you said, it's gonna be it's a hard sell here when it comes to the current fan base.
I'm just baffled by it, and I think that anybody who's actually followed the sport for any length of time is baffled by it. At least the people that I spoke to, like I said, that are some of the more respected people online, and I'm just shocked that was the reaction. I get people being mad that Mighty Mouse lost or sad, but Jesus Christ, how that's the way the rules should be. You shouldn't be able to sit on your hands and knees in front of a fighter. You should get kneed right in the face. This is a fight, and it's not any more dangerous than head kicks. We talked to Doc Lucas about it. He said the last one he'd want to take is a head kick from Wonder Boy. He'd be happy to take a.
And that's the other thing coming into this sport when you're watching it, that either the person you're rooting for, you got money on or whatever, it's 50-50. Either they're going to win or they're going to lose. And you have to kind of just like, okay, that happened. So now let's see what happens in the next one. And that's kind of where you got to leave it.
And I think that the UFC fan boys were just sad that he lost and won. If him losing in UFC, they could talk about it. Now, now they got it, is the best 125/135 pounder sitting in, fighting in Singapore. Well, I guess one day, hopefully we'll find out. But
one thing that was interesting about that, the pre-fight press conference beforehand. I mean, somebody asked, I forget who asked, because they had folks like from media outlets here asking Mighty Mouse questions. And he talked about, because they talked about their weird like weight, the whole way they handle weight cutting or whatever. And I honestly didn't understand it. You'd have to rewatch that press conference to make your own assessment of it. But because of it, Mighty Mouse was like, when he was in the UFC, everybody was kind of like on an even playing field when they cut down to 125. But when they're in their flyweight, because of how they handle things, he said that he's always the smaller guy, even though he's in the same weight class. And we saw that. That was the one thing we did notice against Moraes. Moraes was like, noticeably bigger, had a lot of reach on him. So I don't know if that took I thought he fought well. until that knee landed or whatever. But it is
But
what it is.
again, though, like I don't think Mighty Mouse is the one necessarily complaining about it, but there is
No, he's not.
there is a 125-pound weight class in one. He can fight in the atom weight
Yeah.
division. They have a weight class that he could fight at, so he chose to fight at the 135-pound weight class, no matter what the title of the division is. That's the weight class he chose to fight in. So he could go down and fight the guys, but he wanted to fight the bigger names, and and this is what happens. You're not going to win every fight. I just feel like this is another reason why we have such admiration for the Vanderleys, the Shoguns, the Vovchanchins, the Fedors, the old school guys, the Rampages, the dudes who went through Pride rules and thrived at it.
Yeah.
Fedor went 15-0
Vanderlei
under
also
Pride
has brain damage now or whatever it is.
Well,
so.
yeah, but he still had like a 20-something fight win streak under Pride and no rules. I mean, and it also should show why this myth about the Pride fighters falling off. Well, if you're coming from that rule set and you're going through those battles, there's no doubt. How many of those do you think Mighty Mouse is going to get through? Mighty Mouse is 3-1 under those rules. Vanderlei was like 27-2. Fedor was 15-0. Shogun, all these guys. You have to learn how to fight under those rule sets, and it also is a different war and different battle. And if you screw up, you get friggin' blasted.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends. Like again, it was their first show. I'm trying not to be too hard on them because it's their first. I mean, not that it wasn't their first show, but it was their first. They try to jump into Pride time here or whatever. We'll see what happens. I mean, they got this whole month with a couple more cards. We got another one tomorrow night. I forget who's on it, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna watch it, and we'll probably be talking about it again next week if we don't get another guest falling out or whatever last minute. But I'm pretty sure it's either folks are gonna wake folks up to look at Pride and stuff like that and see with the carding and stuff, because I love seeing all that. I mean, not for nothing. I didn't love seeing that DQ card come out, but I love it. To me, it was like hopefully this is something that catches on. It's either going to catch on or people are going to look down at it. So whatever. I mean, we could leave that one where it is. I mean,
I'm glad they're having their shows on TNT. I'm glad that they're going to showcase their better fighters. I'm glad they're going to be on. I don't really care what time. I would prefer it be earlier, but it is what it is, and I understand they're doing. If they're willing to put a fight on at 7 a.m. in Singapore to make it somewhat viewable for us, then thumbs up to one. I hope they do better. Or they did do better with the broadcast. We had, like you said, mic issues early on, and they just had some bad luck. If the Alvarez fight turns out to be a battle, then it changes the whole night. That just set off a weird tone. But
we'll see what they announce. Maybe it's either tonight or maybe during the broadcast. I'll announce whatever Alvarez was teasing at. Something's going to happen. I mean, I would imagine something's either to make up for the whole debacle, but again, we got a month of one on TNT, and I'm looking forward to it. They sent me a bunch of shit, and I forgot to bring it out.
Yeah, I'm hoping the thing with Alvarez is that he's jumping on one of these cards in the next couple weeks, because the cool thing is that with that weight cutting, it's not such a strain on him. He doesn't have to. It's a little different. So, I don't have an issue with everything. I actually enjoyed the fights, and I was more disappointed with the fans' reaction and of course the disqualification. But that took us Wednesday night. That was chaos. A lot of news coming out of that event, and then Friday night we had the Bellator card that we went over with Tovon Anthony last week. That was the Bader Machida 2 and the Showtime showcase. I'm not sure what your overall take of the whole event was. Fights weren't super exciting to me. There was a couple that kind of jumped out. Really, for me, it was more being my eyes being open to your constant badgering of what's his first name? Which judge is it? Crosby. What's his first name?
Well, apparently it wasn't Crosby though. It was the other guy. I'd have to bring it up, but I mean, just hearing his name, Doug Crosby I mean, he's got. If you do a search of Doug Crosby, you'll find out the reputation he has, and he usually is the guy. But apparently, it was the last initial was J. I can't think of the full name of the judge that was the one that was that responsible for the two split decisions we saw. And you and I were messaging each other when it happened, because one of them and I was glad that John McCarthy voiced his opinion on air because, and that's saying a lot coming from me because I would rather watch the events on mute otherwise when it comes to him but he made a really strong point. He said if they're going to keep bringing these guys back here, we're going to keep seeing decisions like this. And I was just like, man, you hit the nail right on the head. And I thought it was Crosby at the time, but afterwards, because Bellator posted the scorecards, and I don't want to go looking for him now because it'll waste too much time. But I was like, oh, it wasn't Crosby, it was the other guy, and I talked about it on the thing I do for MMA News on Sundays. I just think it must not be too hard to be an MMA judge. I mean, I don't know how much money they make, but I feel like if it's not that hard to get into, maybe I can put my name down wherever you need to so we can get it done correctly.
The problem for you is that requires taking a class through Big John McCarthy. But but yeah, not to go down that path. But yeah, the Yamauchi fight is the fight that set that off from him. I had Yamauchi winning the fight. I saw a lot of people saying how they thought it was close, but it's just become a trend with Bellator, and like you said, and what John McCarthy said, we keep hearing the same names over and over again. So, and I tweeted you like they deserve to take a little bit of a hit, as far as the public's view of them if they're not going to make changes. And I understand they don't pick the route judges, but they could definitely sway it though. All they got to do is
because look at Dana White. Yeah, Dana White has barred how many referees and people.
Because Dana White just says, hey, if you bring in Yamasaki, we're just going to move our event. Or we're just not going to hold an event in Vegas. So all he has to do is say, hey, we're not going to use Crosby or whoever it is. And
maybe when there's no pandemic, they can do that. But
but I don't think you would get to that point. I mean, if Bellator said, hey, man, this guy's hurting our reputation, we just had title contender lose a fight due to a BS decision.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not good for the sport. It's not good for people. It's just not good for anything. And it'll be the downfall of an organization if it continues. It's just funny because you can go, hey, Doug Crosby's judging. And then within 30 minutes of you tweeting that out or calling me or texting me, there's a bad decision. So it's something that needs to be fixed. But so that was
especially when it's documented. I mean, like his stuff is out there documented with his own biases being admitted in interviews, and somehow he still keeps getting called. But I mean, oddly enough, it wasn't him that night. So
yeah, and like you said, I don't want to look up the refs. But it's just weird. But anyways, so Yamauchi loses to Dan Moret, picks up the win in that fight. Easy win for Kat Zingano. I think we all saw that coming. Adam Borix fought well, fought really good. Picked up a decision, went over Jeremy Kennedy. Carmouche Porto wasn't one for the highlight reels. Carmouche gets a decision out of that one. And then we had the main event of Ryan Bader, Lyoto Machida. Man, I thought we were having flashbacks for the first couple rounds. About the first round and a half, man, Machida looked as good as he's looked in a long time.
Yeah, those what's funny, I was watching that fight, I'm like, okay, he's 42 years old. He still takes a pretty traditional Shotokan stance, even though it's southpaw. So the thing about that stance is the kick, you can see the kick coming if you know what to look for. And even with him still, like seeing him switch his hips to throw the kick, it was still pretty goddamn fast. And the post-fight interview, asked Bader about how bad those kicks were landing, and apparently only one got through. Most of them landed on the elbow, but still, like, that redness was obviously from the one that got through. And I don't know if Bader what was it, how many years it is since their first fight? It's been a while.
10, 12 years.
So they've both evolved or degraded, whatever you want to say, depending on what they've had. But this whole, Bader became the heavyweight champ fighting through a Grand Prix. He's avenged this loss against Machida in this opening of round of the Grand Prix for the light heavyweights. I'm just kind of like, dude, I feel like this is just tournament Bader is probably somebody everybody needs to be worried about.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he uses his wrestling
Yeah.
but to not disrespect Machida to the point, Machida was the underdog of this tournament and probably the easiest out
Mm.
if we're just going by reality,
Yeah. Yeah.
without, what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I thought a knockout was coming though, man. Like I'm with you. Like that first round, I was like, "Yo, if these keep landing, Beta's gonna, drop his hands, and one's gonna come up top, and it's gonna be
no,
lights out."
yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, we're really gonna see like Corey Anderson and
Yeah.
Machida in the semifinals, or the ACA champ, who I'll work on trying to pronounce his name here shortly.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, and then all of a sudden,
That's a rough one.
yeah, and then all of a sudden the about the end of round 2, 3, 4, 5, it was just all Bader time, man. And if he fights like that, he's going to be really, really tough to beat.
Well,
But
I mean, I remember who was it? It was when the heavyweight Grand Prix was going on. I remember Chael Sonnen and Rampage where they did some sort of interview together or something, and Chael joked around. He was like, he joked around and saying he's like, I wouldn't. He's like, don't be surprised if I just wrestle my way to a title. I mean, it's not a bad game plan for a tournament. If that's what you're good at, better than everybody else, at least until you get to Nemkov, who could, Bader calls it this Grand Prix his revenge tour. And it's like, well, when if you see Nemkov again, obviously you got to change stuff up because Nemkov was ready for your wrestling. But man, it's a sound way to win. But like you said, there's so many like anything can happen with the other people left in this thing.
There's still killers in this, and the bottom line is, as good as Bader finished that fight, if he starts off and gives a round and a half away to the remaining people in this tournament, he might not see the second or third round.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where Machida kind of had him backtracking and hurt, some of these other guys might continue. Machida's the counter striker, so if he's got to kind of have a dance partner to really to finish a fight. Usually, not to win because he became excellent at just beating guys technically, but
it goes to show you too, man. It's a young man's game. Like you said, like we both noticed, first round was his best round, and then after that, it was kind of just like I mean, even though the kicks was still there, whatever. And I talked about how his footwork changed and stuff like that. He's a master in that martial art, so it's always going to be great. But everything catches up on you.
He just, you can't. It's Bader's a big, strong wrestler, and Machida just couldn't get up, and that sucked the energy out of him. I mean, and he tried to get up, and it just wasn't. He just wasn't going to happen, no matter how much. I mean, I don't think he ever got back to his feet, if I remember right. Every time he got taken down, it was the end of the. He might have got up once. I'm trying to recall earlier, but he, it was just a blanket once he went down, and that just drains the friggin'. You can speak on that better than anybody.
Yeah, especially if you got a wrestler that knows what they're doing. I mean, you could know all the sweeps in the world, but if a wrestler that's been wrestling as long as Bader, if they want to be on top of you, they're going to be on top of you.
Yeah, that top control can be suffocating. So, but I thought it was a good fight for Machida. I don't think nothing bad comes from it to me. Like, he fought really well, and he got beat by a younger, stronger, better wrestler. And Machida's 42 years old and probably should be looking at an exit strategy at this point, and figure out how he wants to wrap up his Hall of Fame career. So that's it. But so that was Bellator. The UFC did have a card on Saturday.
It got messed up with Darren Till's collarbone break, and then Kevin Holland coming in last minute, and I knew he was going to lose by decision. One thing I'll say about that is that the kid deserves some credit for answering the call coming in, and making it to all 5 rounds, even though he lost. He didn't talk as much and stuff like that. So I'll give him that much credit. It sucks that Darren Till's going to be out. Collarbone breaks are no joke. So
yeah. So Marvin Vettori did pick up that decision win, unanimous. Big win for him, but the event overall was kind of lackluster. So moving on to this weekend, where it looks like we're going to have a lot more fireworks. Friday especially, the Bellator 257 card is loaded from top to bottom. one of the deepest cards that I can recall in Bellator history. But
Yeah.
the main card, when you let's see, so comparing it, so we got. I'm not sure the order. We'll see how this all unfolds. But Paul Daley. I mean, I believe this might be his retirement fight. I know that's been
I
talked
know
about.
he's been talking about it on his social. So I mean,
You know,
it sucks that I don't know. I feel like maybe it is time or whatever, especially if you're thinking about it. But I mean, I like the guy. The one time he was at the event that I covered and I got to talk to him. He was nothing but cool, even though he was fighting our boy Saad Awad. But still, it was something that it's gonna be something. It's always sad to see these guys that you've been watching for a while kind of start talking about hanging up the gloves.
yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for 10 years now. Paul Daly is one of my favorite fighters,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe one of the. I mean, somebody. I think he's extremely underappreciated, and he got thrown under the bus for that, weak situation with Koscheck a long, long time ago. But that kind of, turned people against him. But since then, he went to Strikeforce, had battles, including the one that we had the anniversary of him and Nick Diaz this week, and I saw that all over the internet. One of the all time greats, and one of the UK pioneers of the sport, really. And he fights Sabah Hamasi. Um, you know, I think Daley probably he's going to go out swinging. Let's put it that way. We know that. I'd
Mm-hmm.
love to see him get his a nice big hook or uppercut knockout and go off into the sunset.
Yeah.
If he's going to walk away, then let's do that. I mean,
Yeah, it's rare to go out on a win too in this sport, so it'd be nice to see that. It's always nice to see that. So
especially for a striker,
yeah,
strikers rarely ever leave on a good note.
man.
So that moves on, and then we have Vida Ortega coming off of the loss to Alejandra Lara. She fights
Mm-hmm.
Desiree Yanez.
It's a good fight.
It is a good fight. Ortega really needs the win, um, and she's coming off the newcomer. What other name just slipped my head? Yanez, who's coming off competing in Combate. I think Vida will use wrestling, pick up the win.
Mm-hmm.
I think she'll kind of play the smart baiter style fight, and that is kind of her style anyway.
Is
But
it? Is it though?
well,
I feel
she,
I
she's kind
feel
of
like she's a brawler.
yeah, but she's kind of also she gets I guess you're pretty much right. She tends to stand and bang, but I think that might need to change a little bit. I think she might need to strategize up and
Yeah, especially against Yanez.
uh-huh.
I mean, the thing with the whole situation. I mean, at Mohegan Sun, I don't know if there's Bellator jitters or whatever coming from Combate because she's been in some pretty good shows with them. So I don't know if there's going to be anything as far as like outside of making it to fight night that's going to be any underlying pressure for her with Bellator, but she's definitely not somebody that's going to I mean she could be she's the type of fighter that can capitalize on Ortega's aggression. So that's why I see this as being a good fight. Like I could see her fending off of her back, maybe catching a sub in, or you know what I mean, or reversing position. And Ortega again. I mean, we talk about. I mean, women definitely handle this sport better than men do, as far as longevity. like they handle injuries and stuff better. This is going to be a good fight. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a banger.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
It looks like his last loss and it was to Super Melly, who's undefeated in one of the bigger names in Combate. So Combate Global now, right? They changed their
Combate
name.
Global. Yep,
Combate.
5-year deal with Univision. We're supposed to get Campbell on this podcast. I have to reach out to him again to talk about it, but we got to see what's going on with. I mean, everybody trying to get off the ground after this COVID nonsense. It's
Yeah, but we're getting there.
Rough
We're
time.
getting there.
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that'll be a great fight. And then we move into the light heavyweight Grand Prix quarterfinals again. Corey Anderson versus
this dude,
Dovletzan Yagshimuradov.
Yeah.
The ACA champion.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the thing that folks are sleeping on this guy. And Corey Anderson obviously did not. If you watch his interview when they announced this, he says more than a few times that him and his team did homework on his opponent. I'm not even going to try to mess up his name, but he for this guy could be the dark horse that nobody knows about. I mean, he's a champion coming from ACA, like you said. So, and anybody that knows anything about ACA, those aren't walks in the park over there.
No.
So the fact that this guy that's why this guy is in this Grand Prix. It's not to throw an easy win out there for anybody, which is probably why this Grand Prix is so, because everybody that was in it. I mean, we just talked about Machida, but let's not like Machida's. Again, we thought the first fight round was his round, so it's this is going to be a good fight. This is going to be a really good fight.
Yeah, this is two guys pretty much in their prime here.
I'm not going to try to predict it because
it's a hard fight to predict. I part of me thinks that, looking at Yagashimuradov, his record, he's got a lot of like knockouts and TKOs, and I feel like that's kind of, if he's a hard hitter and he's able to avoid takedowns, obviously that's kind of something that Corey Anderson struggled with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also I believe it's also his first fight probably in the United States. And this is a big, and ACA is big. But I do feel like still Bellator is a step up, at least, especially in the United States, obviously. But globally, the name, I think, still carries a little bit more weight. So I think Anderson probably squeaks something out here, but I think this is a fire. I think we might have a new star here if is he Kazakh, or I'm not sure what that flag that is, to be honest.
Turkmenistan.
Turkmenistan. Okay. Well, he is Sambo too. So if he can avoid Corey Anderson getting him down to the ground, generally Corey Anderson's losses have come when he's been forced to stand and bang, and then he eventually get caught. So great fight. Great fight.
I mean, Anderson probably has a reach advantage over him, so he could maybe try to do some counter punching and stuff like that. But we'll see. Like you said, great fight. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and he's 4 inches taller. Anderson is, so that could be interesting. 6'3" to 5'11". So, like you said, the reach. I'd be curious to see how once we get the weigh-ins on Thursday, how they look. And then the champ Vadim Nemkov defends his belt in the round here against Phil Davis, a rematch from a few years back. Split decision win for Nemkov. Very close fight the first fight around. Man, it's a tough fight. Of all the guys Nemkov could fight, this is really one of the more, I think this is probably his toughest matchup stylistically.
Because Davis is a very intelligent fighter.
Exactly. He's become more dangerous standing, and he has the threat of the takedown, which
and a killer Kimura. He's really good at it. Once he slaps it in, his Kimura is pretty good.
Yeah. So I don't know. Do you have a pick on this fight?
No, I'm not trying to pick any of these. I literally am just having fun watching them. I said I was going to get into it. This is perfect. You just gave me the perfect moment to this thing that Bellator is doing with Showtime. I mean, if you watched it, so last night they had a doubleheader with MMA and boxing, and if you watch how they cross promoted, like during the programming Friday night at Bellator 256, they had one of the main event guys on the broadcast. They spoke to him, and then Saturday night during the boxing event, Ryan Bader was there, and he talked about his fight from the night before and talked about this is how, if DAZN did this, they would probably still be in business together. If you want to make like they keep talking about making a destination for fight fans, Showtime is doing it the right way. You're not alienating anyone. You're actually trying to bring everyone together. I wouldn't be surprised every time I talk to Scott Coker. I always try to get it out of him to let's do another Dynamite event, do freaking kickboxing, boxing, MMA, and all in one show. I mean, one is trying to do it already. We saw on Wednesday night with the Muay Thai and MMA. It's already out there in the universe. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 2022 we see that happen. But I mean this is how you do business, DAZN. Take note. I mean, you can't put everything in Eddie Hearn's fucking shoulders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I I think DAZN just, like you said, they dropped the ball.
They dropped the ball.
And they dropped the ball for MMA fans. They have good boxing content, but we lean heavily on the MMA side as far as what we talk, and I just feel like that they've lost. I don't know any MMA fans who are strictly paying for DAZN now.
And it was always a gamble. I mean, when you had conversations about it, people were like, "Is it really worth it for me to get on DAZN though?" I mean, they have Bellator and they didn't even talk about KSW and Top FC and the other promotions that they had on streaming on there. So this is how it's done, folks. This is how it's done, and I'm all aboard this light heavyweight Grand Prix. I mean, I watched one of the earlier fights on that broadcast of Showtime Boxing because I was all fight sported out by the time the UFC ended early on Saturday. So I was like, I don't know if I could get into another thing, but I mean, it was a good broadcast, and like I said, the fact that Ryan Bader was there to talk it up. They're all using the same space anyway, so if you're going to be working and being bet together, you might as well go in 100% with each other. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can't make a pick on this, man. I can't make a pick on it's like asking me who I think is going to win the whole thing. Right now, it literally could be any of these guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree with that. Yeah. I'll just go out on a limb and take Nemkov just because I think that he's the more developing fighter, and I think he's getting better. Whereas I don't know if Davis is necessarily getting better, but he's still at a very high peak right now, despite having now 27 fights. So,
I tend to agree with you. I just if anyone's going to pull off a decision victory, it's going to be Davis.
Yes, I mean, I feel like we're kind of in a 5-round fight. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had the 3-round where Nemkov won the split, but in a 5-round fight, I tend to definitely agree with you because I feel like if Nemkov is going to beat you, he's going to pound the shit out of you inside of 5 rounds.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Like that Kimura again. That's a great one of Davis's great submissions, but Nemkov's not going to fall for that because that's kind of something where he's comfortable with. So it's going to be conditioning and technique and on the feet that's where this fight's going to get won.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for it. This is, like I said, this is a great card, and I mentioned how deep it was. Just flipping through the prelims. Pop those up there. But just some of the names. I mean, Lance Gibson Jr. His dad fought in UFC early days. I believe that's Julia Budd's. Julia Budd's married to Lance Gibson, so I believe that's her stepson. And so he's
speaking of Julia Budd.
Julia Budd, also on the card. I mean, the former champion, coming off of a win, so this would be 2 wins in a row. I imagine if she wins this fight, she probably fights Cyborg, assuming Cyborg does.
Well, they have rankings now that they're going by, so who knows? I mean, Blanco's still up there. I mean, but the thing is, you can't have these ladies keep fighting each other. So they're probably gonna, you got Kat Zingano, you have, Cyborg's already got that Leslie Smith bout already announced. But it's one of those things where it's they're gonna have to use the rankings and say how badly do folks want to see this certain group of women keep fighting. The UFC does it all the time, so we'll see.
Yeah, but I feel like Bud's kind of in a I think she's in kind of a special spot here because she was such a long-time champion. Mm-hmm. She really could have demanded an instant rematch immediately after the Cyborg fight. It went 3-4 rounds. Although Cyborg controlled it, she didn't embarrass herself and being the champ for so long. So I feel like if she goes out away from the Cyborg fight and wins 2 fights in a row, she has more than right to demand a championship fight. Now, maybe in between there, somebody else squeaks in there because Leslie Smith is lower ranked than Bud. I believe Bud's the number 1 ranked. She's number 1 right behind Cyborg. So
I know they updated them today. I didn't look at the updated rankings, but
yeah, I'm sure they moved around a little bit with the Kat Zingano win. Probably moved her up and such.
That's the other thing too. I mean, just really quick about the rankings. Like folks were already complaining about moving in the rankings. People, they just started doing them. So anyone that fights in any of those divisions, you're going to see a lot of movement, and it's going to, flip around. Once they get going, it'll look more normal, but you got to, I swear to God, like you said, with some of the fans, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, like give it some time. It's not, social media has created this thing about people wanting instant gratification.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
They clearly stated that they don't have members, or they don't have fighters listed in their rankings unless they've had a fight for Bellator in the last year. So that's going to change and crisscross. And I mean, we're going to have
they just got started. Give it some time.
If Yager Muradov picks up his win, he's going to go from not even ranked to probably like two or three. So it's going to move around. And like you said, it's still a voting process that's going to be on a weekly scale. So things are going to change. People are going to get injured. Fights are going to get announced. People are going to win, lose. It's a natural moving thing. Carl Albertson, Victor Nemkov.
The Ryzen fight right there.
Brother of the champ. Makes his comes to Bellator. That's a great fight. Fight. I mean, that easily could be a main card fight. Julia Budd should be on the main card. I mean, it's just loaded.
Not for nothing. It's only Tuesday night we're doing this, so anything can happen. If they wind up having to bump somebody up Thursday, Friday, they have look at this. They have choices to bump up whomever.
Pedro Carvalho. I mean, he's coming off.
He just fought
semifinal loss to Pitbull.
Yeah.
And he's fighting the undefeated mega prospect JJ Wilson, who's 7-0. Sal Rogers coming off a win after he had his loss in the Grand Prix as well. He's 14-3. He fights Mads Burns, who's 14-3. I mean, loaded event top to bottom. Raymond Daniels, former Glory kickboxing champion, Bellator kickboxing champion.
Highlights,
human highlight reel. This is a rematch from when he spin kicked the dude in the nuts. So we're gonna hope that doesn't replay itself.
It is Mohegan Sun. That's I think that's like I actually messaged. I always mention we got to get him on this podcast at some point. Jay Petrie, the statistician over at I forget what his position. He's like assistant managing editor or whatever, but he's also the stats guy over there. And when whatever groin shot happened last Friday, Mohegan Sun, I said to him, I was like, "Is Mohegan Sun the leading MMA ball shot capital of the sport?" And he was like, "Yeah, kind of, at least in the U.S." So,
he's the stat guy for who's he the stat guy for Bellator or for
Sure Dog?
For Sure Dog. Okay.
SureDog.com. Yeah. So I would probably if we can't get our originally scheduled guest, maybe I'll shoot him a message, see if he can make it on. Cool. But he is a busy man. He's always collecting numbers, so we'll see.
I believe it, man. The mega heavyweight Steve Mowry returns 8-0, 6'8", fights out Sean Asher, who's 13-3. I mean, and then we get a couple of the but guys with good records, 9-4, 9-2.
Yeah.
We've moved along from the 0-1 and 1-3 guy fighting 2-2 guy, at least on this card. So hopefully this is a sign kind of the pandemic opening up, because there's a lot of international flair on this card, which was something that was kind of missing a little bit from some of the Bellator events during the pandemic. So it looks like they, getting all that worked out, and Team Fedor will be in the house in full effect on Friday. Should be. I'm looking forward to it. I wish it didn't. I wish this was a Saturday card, so I could see the whole prelims with my work schedule. But
I know, especially these prelims, man. That's one thing about the Friday thing on your coast. I always feel bad for you because I always start messaging you when the fights start and you're still working. So sorry about that, but at least you're getting some information.
Yeah. This one I might just have to go dark and then go back, and because I can watch them. I can rewatch them on YouTube, right? I should be able to watch the replay.
Yeah, they're always on there. So
yeah. So this might be one where I just have to backtrack and try to keep away from results and watch those prelims. But man, looking forward to it.
And then really quick, we got the UFC on Saturday, right?
UFC Saturday, ESPN card. Not the best card, but the main event's pretty cool. Main event: Robert Whitaker, Calvin Gastelum. Gastelum finally picked up a win in his last fight. Whitaker's on a big roll since he dropped the title to Adesanya. I think Robert Whitaker wins this fight, but I see this being a really good fight. I think Whitaker continues his high class role back.
I'm gonna pick Gastelum just because he's a fat Mexican like myself.
There you go. So either way, though, I think we're in for a good event there, and we didn't have it in our notes, which is a bit surprising. But don't we got that big Triller event on Saturday as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. But Ben Askren boxes, Frank Mir boxes on Saturday night. So
I like that. I actually like that fight more than the Askren Paul thing because I've spoken to Steve Cunningham. That dude. I prefer. I know it's supposed to be Tarver and Mir, but I actually when they changed that up, that made me more interested in the event. So if I tune in, it's definitely going to be to watch Mir and Cunningham because those are. Steve Cunningham's just he's a cool dude. He's a Renaissance man. He's got his own comic book. He writes stories and stuff like that. I have an article on him over at my site, the Blogboard Jungle. I shared it when the thing. I'll probably retweet it out. Maybe I'll put it on the bottom of this YouTube video if you just want to read about the man outside of fighting. Cool dude. Long story with him that I'll tell you when we're done recording. But he's a really cool dude.
nice.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Nice. That is Saturday night as well. I have no idea how to get Triller. I don't know what it even really means. But there will be ways to watch the fight if that's something that entertains you.
Yeah, I think you could order it on Fight TV.
Yeah, you probably could. There'd probably be other ways. But with that said, fans can check us out at allaccessmma.com. You can follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Edit Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. Let's hope for good fights. And
we certainly got a lot of them.
Got a lot. We don't need to get greedy, but some nice main events and main cards would be awesome to help fill this weekend out and move us on to the next week where we have a full crowd UFC event to look forward to.
Oh yeah, is that the one you're going to?
Yep, I'll be heading out for that and BKFC, so I'll be out for a whole week checking out the violence. But we'll talk about that more next week. So
cool.
Until then, thanks for listening, everybody, and everyone have a good night. Stay safe.
Stay safe.